Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and I'm excited to be joined with Alex with his fantastic movie Tejano Night. But for those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at the clip.
Oye, Pocho.
Alex, this is I'm loving that we're doing this, even though you're in Dallas and I'm in LA, but we're still doing it. Thank you. Thanks so much for bringing your film to us. It was such a pleasure to have your film with us at the Academy's venue in Hollywood. Congratulations on your film.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now I've got so many questions. I was completely enthralled with this story, these characters that you created for us, and I really wanted more. I was like, please no, I want to know more about all these wonderful characters. But for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Yeah, Tejano Night is somewhat autobiographical. It's a story about a young Latino in Central Texas, or sorry, South Texas, that has to confront his identity in a night. And so, he's there at a sort of a family gathering that he doesn't see it that often, and feels like a fish out of water, and mistakenly mispronounces the word tamale, just says it like tamale, and everybody stops and stares and points and laughs, which is, something that I've experienced in my own life. And he's sort of forced to, or he wants to retreat from his family, and is forced to go out with his cousins and be in, I think, an even more challenging environment where he's sort of tested again of whether or not he fits into this community or not, or at least that's how he's perceiving the whole scenario.
I'm so glad that you made this film. I can say from being in the audience at the event during when you made this film, and having such a wonderful large Latino community here in Los Angeles. A lot of people really identify with your film. You could feel the reaction in there. It was very powerful, and I think whichever side that you were on, people can relate and understand. Where was that moment for you, Alex, where you kind of like, I have to turn this kind of quite personal experience I've had into making a film?
I think the night it happened, or the night, the real, like, the night that I feel where I went to a bar with my sister, my mom, and my partner, or my now wife. And I remember thinking that I'm in a room full of very eccentric people that I'm familiar with and that I grew up around. And I feel like the energy that sort of they were giving, in a dance hall or in a bar, I just couldn't match that. I think at the time I'm very introverted. A lot of times, especially in those environments where, Tejano music is playing and you're supposed to go up and dance like no one is watching you. I found that really difficult. And so I just sat in a corner and just moped and had myself a little pity party. And then all of a sudden I see these two young dancers, the dance floor started clearing, and then I just spotted them, and they were just having, it looked like they were having the time of their lives. And I remember just feeling so just being so mesmerized by that visual, because there they are expressing themselves in a way that I just I can't relate to that. And I'm in awe of that. And I just sat there and for like 4 or 5 minutes just watched them. And I think somewhere in that moment I was like, wow, this is such a powerful image. Seeing Latinos on a dance floor and just sort of commanding the space. And I knew like that visual was something that sort of sparked a lot of creativity. Like usually when I'm out in public and I'm, experiencing, whatever I'm experiencing, I'll get a visual or I'll hear, somebody say something. And then my little creative cinematic mind just is like, if I were to just place a camera right here, like what effect would that have on me as an audience member? And that was one of those moments where I was like, I see it. I see the colorful lighting. I see, the beautiful music. I see the stunning visual of two people dancing with each other. That to me was when I was like, all right, I don't know when or how, but I know I'm gonna have to share this moment with other people. And I think when it became time to make my pre-thesis film at University of Texas at Austin. Usually go with the topic of identity is really popular. And so when I started thinking about my own identity, I reflected on my life. And I just sort of realized that I didn't feel like I identified with, the culture of my family or my heritage, even maybe the color of my skin. And I found that really concerning because I felt like I just didn't really have a place to belong to. And so I just started thinking about, who am I and what am I supposed to be? And then how do I like not fit that mold? And I realized like, well, I don't speak Spanish. I've been made fun of a lot. One of my best friends, their family's from Mexico, and they would invite me over a lot. And a family actually pointing and laughing at me is very much based off of how my friend's family treated me when I said, I was like, we were talking about dishes that my dad makes. And I was like, oh yeah, my dad makes really great carne asada. And like in the movie or like in that scene from the film, everyone just stops and just stared at me for there's a brief moment of silence, and they just started hysterically laughing at me.
Oh no, Alex.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing where I think sometimes when you don't have, I think when you're in an audience full of non-Latinos, I think it comes off a lot more harsher than sometimes I think we perceive it. Like, where I think the beautiful thing, or the thing I really wanted to also express in the film, was like the sense of humor from Latinos, especially like how my family's sense of humor is. It's very, they're gonna make fun of you, they're gonna laugh at you, and it kind of, in a weird way, like, I'm thankful for that because it makes you grow a tough skin. And so, I mean, they were, in that moment I'm talking about specifically, they were playfully laughing at me. I mean, obviously in the moment you're flustered and you're like, what's going on? But I think I've come to realize like that in a weird, maybe not entirely healthy way, as them like, saying you're a part of this. And I do think that, again, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I feel like it is sort of a rite of passage that you sort of have to go through those experiences at least like in my family, or my, the Latinos that I grew up with in Central Texas.
I think you did it so you put it out so well, Alex. And I think the one thing, as well as saying that, I think what came across in the film as well is that you also kind of, it was also there was also very some endearing moments from your family, and the kind of playfulness and the humor you know, was a kind of way of getting closer and in love. And also you could feel love there, even when you're sitting at the bar and, you know, you're there, like, you know, clearly, you know, he wanted to check out you're okay, you know. And I thought those little moments were quite powerful to watch actually and see on the screen. I just thought as well, I really thought your cast were brilliant. I really felt like I was watching a real family. This was a real experience, and of course in your own world it was. And I just love this kind of family and world that you kind of created for us. And I was like, I thought, am I watching a TV show here? This is like, what is this, like season 3, episode 2? Like, what is this? Like, tell us a little bit about your process in bringing your cast together. I just thought it was just it just flowed so well.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges of taking something on like this for, I think, someone like me is, I didn't know what I was. I didn't know I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, because again, like, you know, I've grown up perceiving myself as like not sort of feeling a part of this community, and a lot of, and in some instances feeling that I rejected it entirely. And so coming in, trying to know, or, you know, obviously, like, you know, topic of representation is you know, sort of ballooned over the last few years, and I think that's really great. And I knew, like, all right, if this is sort of what I want to talk about, I need to nail it, you know, and I need to nail this community. And it's something that I still felt like very foreign when I was like, how am I gonna do this, you know? And I knew, one, I had to bring on people that, you know, who are, one, are Latino, obviously, but also, they're creatives, they're mindful of representation, like they come from different parts of the state, and even like outside of the state. And so I knew that if I had a very diverse group of people who just, these are their experiences too, you know, if I bring them in key positions, they're going to act as my bumpers. And all I have to do is just, you know, throw the ball down the lane. And if something, you know, goes, you know, isn't weird, or it's just, you know, I'm have them say a line of dialogue that doesn't quite sound right, they're gonna keep me in the lane. And I think that was very true for even like the cast. And, you know, my good friend Harold, who plays Mikkel, is somebody that I had recently met, and we had the last film that I'd done with him. And so I knew also too that he grew up in the Valley, which is where the film takes place. And so, you know, same thing. His story is very, very similar. You know, is seen as the white boy of, you know, of his community, and he could relate to that story. He just has to kind of behave as himself in a way. And then you just look for the people that just have a lot of charisma, and thankfully, like, all of those, most of the people, like, I either knew them or one of my actors knew them. And so it's a very close-knit group. And I think that lends itself to having a much more intimate, creative environment that, you know, that you can have fun, you can play in, and but it also just feels right, and it feels authentic. And you just start to have, I think we got to a point really quickly, like, you can just start having fun while you're on the set. And I feel like when you're at that point, that's usually like a really great spot to be in.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
especially build this, you know, you're building a family, so they have to sort of have this feeling of like knowing each other. And no, I thought it was really great to watch in that respect as well. You know, I was, you know, again, I can't, this is your pre-thesis film, but like, how was this experience for you? Because, you know, having those big dinner scenes, shooting in a bar with music, with dance, how was that whole experience? Was there any challenges? Like, how was that process for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, anybody who's a creative, especially a filmmaker, can probably relate to this next thing, which is, you know, you're the person who's going to care the most about your film. And hopefully you just surround yourself with people who just want to help and be a part of, you know, something that you think is interesting, and hopefully they think it's interesting too. And I think Before making it, I was really hesitant about. I thought that this would be like too niche of a, like, I'm going to alienate people if, it's just a topic, it's just this guy who doesn't speak Spanish at all, or like doesn't feel like immersed. I'm just, I don't know. I was very in my head about it. But then like one of my friends was very, very encouraging and just said, you just sort of have to, go for it. And I think that also includes like, the bigger things. Like if you want a family scene, you just got to go for it. If you want if you want to film in a bar and fill it, you have to figure out and you have to go for it. And I think, I'm so sorry. Hold on. Let me turn off my speakers. I'm getting text messages. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So your question is, what was it like doing sort of these big set pieces? I've never done anything that big before. I think a lot of sort of also what makes me tick as a creative is very like strategy based. How can I convince, tons of people that I don't know to come and help me out, do this thing. And a lot of it's outreach, a lot of it's, again, trusting the people that you're bringing in to help you out with these things. And I think, yeah, as a pre-thesis film, it was nerve-wracking the entire time. But I think I feel like what always saved me was, the core mission behind it, or the core idea, which is talking about Chicano identity and how it's much more nuanced than I feel like is represented. Usually Latino identity isn't it's represented as a sort of a monolith of like, we all speak Spanish, or we all come from families that have either just come here to the States within our generation or a parent's generation. And I just don't think that that's the case a lot of times. And I feel like when that's sort of painted as a one stroke, just like a one stroke or like a one trick pony, is like, that's super, it's kind of it's alienating. And I feel like when I think about how I viewed myself as a young person, that is, I think, what made me feel very resentful, is like, this is how we're portrayed, this is how we're supposed to be, and therefore I'm not that. And if I can't be that, then I'll just be something else and I'll be my own thing.
I think you did such a great job, and I think don't feel this is a niche at all. Certainly, being in the audience, I think it was a real great experience. I mean, this is a country of immigrants, and a lot of people have got many different, cultures and experiences for where they live, or where their family originated from. Like, I think it was really beautifully articulated, and it makes me curious to be like, having made this film, and I think a lot of people from many different, immigrant families can identify, some of what this character was going through. But for you, what did you kind of want, your audience to take away from this? I know it's a personal story, but I do feel like it had a universal effect, whether to understand or relate.
Yeah, I feel like what would have made this creative endeavor, successful for me was to try and communicate nuance within, Latinx Chicano identity here. I feel like that, to me, was what I was after, because we could have, there's plenty of stuff out there that, again, paints us in a particular light or a particular manner. Like, we behave, we act a certain way. And I feel like for me, my end goal was always like, how can I show a much more nuanced and multi-dimensional portrayal of this identity? And I feel like, I don't know, that rung so true to me. And I knew that if I was successful, it would go beyond Chicano identity. It would go into like all other cultures, and because there's here in the States, like we're a bunch of people that are in between, so many different things. And I knew that communicating, like feeling in between something would just ring true, just not across the board, but like it would just allow me to connect with, I think, the more I don't know, that just felt so much more human to me rather than just specifically talking about this.
Yeah.
And I that's what I feel like I want my art to be, which is to I just want to connect with people. And if I can, obviously, if I can tell a story about something specific and it is true for, outside of just that specific topic, then I feel like I'm successful in that route. And then I get, my audience can get what I'm wanting to get, what I'm wanting them to get out of it.
Well, I think if you're starting so early in your career with this quality, then we should be very excited for what's coming next for you. And speaking of which, to close on, what is next for you working on or looking into next, Alex?
One, having a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, one, having a baby. I have things obviously lined up, but I can't even begin to think about those things without, that's like my next big it's like my next big project. It's a long-term project.
A lifetime project, that one.
Lifetime project. But I am working on my thesis film, or I'm finishing up my thesis film right now. It's called Search and Destroy. It's about the moment where you and your childhood friends just learn that your friendship has changed and you're going your separate ways. I feel like that is an interesting moment that really isn't talked about. Like, for instance, our film is really like influenced by like Goonies and mainly like The Sandlot. And there's a scene in The Sandlot that is like the second to last scene that I always found to be like the most interesting thing that wasn't ever talked about, which is, where all the kids are on the baseball field and one by one, they slowly start fading out. And it's just like, it's gone. And I'm like, oh man, that's, I feel like, don't get me wrong, I obviously love the adventure that I just experienced, but man, to get into that seems like just, it's not really talked about because we idealize our childhood and we want to remember it. But I also think that it's okay to, deal with what also, hurt us at that age. And yeah, so I just wanted a childhood adventure, like a neighborhood adventure film that I felt like talked about something that was just honest. And I just want to see, I don't know, I wanted to see that happen. And so that's kind of what it's kind of what the film's about. So,
Oh, I can't wait to see that. Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
and it's an all BIPOC cast too, which is like obviously like Stranger Things, Sandlot, Goonies, like majority of those casts are white.
Yeah.
And I think it was also important to me to show and represent, the kids that I grew up with, which was really diverse. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, but listen, this is great, and best wishes with making and creating that, and we can't wait to see that one. And in the meantime, listen, thank you so much for your conversation today with us, and bringing your film to us, and a big warm vibes. Congratulations for you and your wife having this baby. I know it'll be the longest project of your life and the best one. But yeah, but no, thanks so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to welcome you back in the future. So thank you very much, Alex.
thank you so much.